Welcome back. My name is Kit.
And I'm Steve.
And this is Streaming Things. Today we're covering one of my all-time favorite films. I know I say that.
You say that all the time.
Every single time.
Man up, man.
I'm a lover
Draw a line. Which one is it?
I'm a
Which
lover
one's your favorite?
of many films. Actually, this is the truth. The God's honest truth. Witness me. I listed Inglourious Basterds 2009 as my, I think it's 2009, as my favorite movie for like a decade. Mm-hmm. I said that confidently. I don't think that's any longer the case, but it's up there regardless. I love this movie. It's no bullshit. I'm not just trying to please the patrons, because this is one of our Patreon demanded films. For those of you who don't know, there are people who sign up, believe it or not, they pay us money and they can mandate that we watch and review a film of their choice. And they do that. We do that every week.
And this movie was nominated by Wendy O'Loughlin.
Wendy O'Loughlin.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy.
Thank you so much. It was a gas to revisit this. So that's what we're doing today. And you can follow the show on all social medias. You can go to patreon.com/streamingthings if you want to make us review a movie. Last week was Spaceballs, I think.
Yep.
Time flies when you're having fun. So it's all across the board as far as that goes. You can email the show at streamingthingspod@gmail.com. And if you want to support the show in a really easy way with very little effort, you can just rate and review the show wherever you're listening to this, whether that be Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google Play, if you're one of those three guys. Please do that. That helps us a lot to be discovered in the feeds. We've got a very special guest today to help us review Inglourious Basterds, because this is a movie of such quality that I thought maybe we need some actual thoughts on this movie. Some not just silly voices. Mm-hmm. Maybe we need some actual discourse.
We need some real content.
Maybe. I don't know. That's not what people come to us for, so they might not like it, you know?
Right, yeah.
What is this? But I've got a good friend of mine. Marta McFly is how you probably know her. Marta, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm wonderful. So happy. I mean, we planned this 3 months ago or something. I mean, it's been a long time coming, your guest spot.
Yes.
I showed you the list of films. You chose a couple of them, but this one in particular. So I'm excited to talk to you about it. I know it's early where you are. Are you feeling okay? You had your coffee?
I'm good. I am very excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I've had my coffee and I'm ready to go talk about this.
All right. All right. And where can other people, right at the top of the show, let's do it. Where can people find more of your work?
So social media wise, where I do all these video essays and video movie reviews, that's marta.mcfly on TikTok and Instagram. And then for my actual movie writing, for people that feel like reading, I guess.
Reading.
Reading, imagine. That's Marta, MartaDjo.com. That's my portfolio.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us and talk about this movie. We'll go around the table and talk about, like, what is your history with Inglourious Basterds, Tarantino's film? And the first time you watched it, have you always been a fan? And was it different watching it this time? Just in general, how do you feel about this movie?
I adore this movie. Like you, this is probably one of my favorites by Tarantino, next to Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown for me personally. First time I saw it was in theaters in 2009, and it was a fantastic experience. I remember being blown away. Since then, I've seen it 4 or 5 more times. It always never ceases to amaze me. The cool thing was I rewatched it last night and I noticed that there's still so much I pick up on, weirdly enough, like these small little things that I don't notice previous times. So it always makes the experience just so much fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. Steve, I'm curious. I don't think we've talked a ton about this movie as much as I love it. Mm-hmm. Where does it stand for you?
I love this movie. This probably is, I think, like Marta, I think it's one of my top 3 favorite Quentin Tarantino movies, if not my favorite one. Mm-hmm. It's really, really great. It's surprisingly funny. Like, there's always some humor to his movies, but this, I think, might be, we kind of briefly talked about this offline, but this might be his funnious movie. But also, I think...
Which you would not think with the subject matter.
Right, exactly.
This one's going to be a hoot. You know?
And I think, exactly, a film about a Jew hunter? Heck yeah, I can't wait. But this movie, I think, has aged really well, more so than some of his other movies, meaning that a lot of the themes that are tackled in the movie, I think, in today's world still stand are still prescient. Like the whole like, hey, we like our Nazis to be able to be seen in public. Like that's something we all can. We definitely want that today as well. And I love the casting. I really appreciate the balls that Quentin Tarantino had to like, I'm going to make this movie for American audiences, but it's going to only feature like, I don't know, like 30% English. The rest of it is in German or French or Italian.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's like incredibly brave for American cinema, at least. And he's just such I love the way, you know, all of his movies are like this, but I love the way his movies build and build and build tension through words, through the written dialogue. He's a master at that type of stuff. And even though you might look on the poster and think, oh, Brad Pitt and crew are going to go shoot up Nazis the whole movie, it's not really an action movie. It's a lot of the movie is people sitting at tables talking, and it just is dripping with tension.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's such a masterclass in writing and directing, in all honesty. So yeah, I love this movie very much.
I mean, you're not going to get a dissenting opinion from me. I kind of jumped the shark early. I adore this movie. I think it is hands down Tarantino's best film. I love his oeuvre in its entirety. But I think it's kind of like, this is his Oppenheimer in a way, you know, back in 2009, where everybody already respected the Tarantino name. But when this came out, at least for me, I was like, holy shit. It's so meticulously put together. In the same way that like when you talk about like Nolan's filmography, you want to say like, I'm tempted to say Memento, you know what I mean, might be his best early on. You know, that's his kind of Pulp Fiction, I think. And personally, my favorite Nolan is The Prestige.
Hard agree, my man.
But this movie, and he even says it, I think, in the text, Tarantino, when he says, you know, at the end, you know, this might be my masterpiece. I have always loved Quentin Tarantino, and like as I've gotten older, I've been less proud of that. If that sounds weird to say, like
he's slightly problematic.
Well, for sure.
Yeah.
I not even like him as a person. Like he's said some wild shit, and he's very closely linked to like, you know, Weinstein and the gang. But at the same time, just like in general, he's got this connotation of a surface level film bros idea of cinema, right? But I really do think at its core, Quentin Tarantino is a great gateway drug into world cinema in general. Like the man loves movies and knows a shitload about movies. And that comes through when you hear him talk, but also in the way that he makes movies. It's just like a love letter to the art form itself. Like there's so much of Ennio Morricone and Sergio Leone and New Hollywood. Like this is such a New Hollywood style film. And it's in many ways a reference to the power of movies themselves, this movie, right? Like it's ultimately a movie that brings down, wow, that's kind of a spoiler. So I won't continue that thought.
You're not going to spoil the movie from 2009?
Well, you know, the high command. So yeah, I love this movie. And like, you're right, it's super funny. It gave the world Christoph Waltz, just blew us away with his talent. You were talking to Steve about how it's 30% English, right? Like he decided to use the Germans speak German and the French speak French, and there's some brief Italian. I listened to Tarantino talk about that, and he said it was kind of maddening watching older World War II movies where Americans do this thing where like the Germans speak English, but with kind of a German accent, right? And that's how most movies have been throughout our history.
Colonel Helmet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Colonel Klink?
And he's like, it drives me nuts because there's so much tension. Because especially the older Inglourious Basterds, where like the actors had to impersonate Germans, but since everybody was speaking English throughout the entire movie, it was just all they had to do was put on a German uniform, and nobody really thought about what about the language, right? Mm-hmm. So he's like, you're forfeiting this opportunity, this incredible opportunity for tension, because you're not acknowledging the language difference. Like they would have to speak fluent German to pull that off. So I really wanted to play with that idea, and that's why he did it that way, especially in like the bar scene. The basement bar scene where the guy detects the accent and becomes a whole problem, right? So I like that his brain works that way, and he's, you know, it kind of took him out of the original movie where he's like, what do you mean? I guess they speak German, you know what I mean? Like that's the shit he's thinking about. So yeah, I can't wait to dive into more of this stuff, because I think like you guys, I've probably seen this movie no shit, like 30 times. I mean, my wife, she came downstairs last night and I was like taking notes watching it. She's like, what are you doing? It was obvious what I was doing, right? But I was like, well,
Again?
we're covering Inglourious Basterds on the podcast tomorrow. And she was like you need to watch that again to talk about the movie. I was like, well, I don't want to look like a stooge and misremember something, you know? But I mean, it's to the point where I could have done it without. I mean, I love this movie.
You've got all the German and French memorized.
Yes.
You're like dry glazer.
Dry glazer. Well, I studied German in high school and college. So when I first watched this movie was when I was in college. So at the time I spoke a decent amount of German. So it was fun for that too. Like my dad was so mad when I took German in high school. He was like, for what? What does that do? How many German people do you run into? Like he was so mad I didn't take Spanish, which he was correct as far as like utility, but I like the German teacher. Frau Pennington was cool. Everybody knew that.
Everyone knows how Frau Pennington is on the streets.
Yeah.
All my homies love Frau Pennington.
So I have the 4K Steelbook, Marta,
Brag.
and I'd never watched the special features before. And there's an interview, a roundtable with Brad Pitt and Quentin Tarantino. And there's some things I never knew that maybe are common knowledge. I'm not sure. Quentin Tarantino wrote the role of Aldo Rain for himself.
Yes.
Did you know
I
this?
found that out
Yeah.
last night. I found out. Yes.
I did not know that. Because, you know, sometimes he'll just insert himself into the movies there, Steve.
I want to be a super cool guy who scalps people and likes feet. Oh, I mean, let's take the feet thing out.
All right. Yeah, that's what he always says.
But that makes sense that his buddy Eli Roth is like the co-star of that platoon because it's like me and Eli can just go roughshod in the European theater.
So Brad Pitt got the role 6 weeks before they started shooting. Like it was super last minute. And it just occurred to Quentin to hire Brad. And he knew Brad's agent really well because Brad has the same agent as Uma Thurman. So it's like a friend of Quentin's. And he called Brad and was like, hey, I'm sure he's busy, but do you think he'd want to do this? And Brad was not busy because he only books one movie at a time. There's a whole thing where Brad's like, I've gotten to a place in my life where.
Was that your Brad Pitt voice?
You know, since I'm not going to be able to do it. It was
this whole thing.
It's kind of neat though, because he's such a big star. He can do whatever he wants. And he's like, you know, I used to book 3 movies at a time. And so I'd be shooting a movie and then 2 years later would have something already scheduled. But he's like, I'm not like imitating artists. Like I do think it's a valid sentiment, but it's funny sounding to like normal people. But he's like, you know, I might be a different person by then. And I will have regretted that I've committed to that. So I just like to keep it open. But anyway, so I thought that was neat. Like the idea of Quentin playing Aldo, like that would be terrible.
That would be
That'd be
awful.
awful.
Like whenever he shows
God,
up,
awful.
like when he shows up in Django, it's like, it's camp to me. I wouldn't say ooh.
I will
but
say it's the best role, the best casting of himself in one of his movies because as soon as he shows up as that character, like, oh, okay, I get this. I hate this guy. But when he shows up in like, what was that? Pulp Fiction in the bathroom.
Well, no. From Dusk Till Dawn
Was an interesting one. Yeah.
When he's drinking liquor off Santanico
Salma Hayek.
Pandemonium's foot. Yeah. Which, you know, he was like, I got an idea.
Or Planet Terror, if you guys remember, although that wasn't his movie, but
What was
he's
it?
in Planet Terror. Remember he did Grindhouse? Yeah. That was a gross one.
I think Grindhouse was the thing that he shot right before
I forgot about that one.
this, right?
Right. Yeah. His Death Proof, was that 2009 as well?
It was, the whole Grindhouse thing was close to this. I'm almost positive.
Yeah.
2 years before.
Yes. So
2007.
he talked about how that was a nightmare. Like the whole Grindhouse shoot was kind of brutal. And so he wanted to do Inglourious Basterds a little differently. And that's why when he hired Brad, it was only 6 weeks out because he's like, we got to fucking go. I'm not going to spend my whole life on this. We're going to knock it out. And it was also fascinating because you said this was for American audiences, and it totally was. They shot this in Berlin, and they talked a lot about the German reception to this movie. And I'd never, because I'm a selfish, geocentric person, thought much about it. Like how Germans would view this movie, because and Quentin was like very passionate about this, about the fact that like the German people, like German actors especially, he's like, do you know how many times they've had to play Nazis?
Yeah.
Like if you need a German actor for something in an American movie, it's like 8 times out of 10, it's for a Nazi. And so he's like talked about how this was cathartic for them. And like he watched this movie in Berlin at the German premiere, and like Brad Pitt was like, I was nervous, you know, because like there's a whole scene when we introduce Aldo Rain where he's like, and the German will fear us, you know, and he's like, I was kind of looking around because it's not even Nazi that I'm saying specifically Germans, yeah. But he's like, everybody was laughing and having a good time, and it was like so much tension left the room because it was like, for them, this is the 800th World War II movie they've seen, but it's like, it's one they can laugh at, one they can have fun with. And I don't know if that's true or not, or if that's just Quentin blowing smoke of his own ass, but he felt like the tone of this movie was a cathartic experience for Germans who kind of have this like generational national trauma of guilt for something that they really didn't have anything to do with. So I don't know. I don't know if there's any thoughts you guys have on that, but that was something I'd never thought about watching this movie, was like, I wonder what a German feels like watching stuff like this, you know?
Well, I was reading last night, the actor who plays Hugo Stieglitz, he said just that he was always offered, because he's a German actor living in LA, he was always offered these sorts of roles where he had to play a Nazi and whatnot, and it really, really bothered him. He never wanted to do it. But when Quentin approached him about Inglourious, he said yes immediately because it was so different.
Yeah.
And because it was, like you said, cathartic almost for this sort of generational trauma. So, yeah.
And the movie does kind of paint, like there definitely are evil people who are Nazis in this movie, but it also does show like there are
gradations.
There are gradations of it. There are people who are, by all accounts, probably normal folk that have been pulled into it just because of the where they live, and specifically, you know, the people at the bar who are just celebrating, you know, the guy having a child. Like there is definitely gradations of it, and even Hugo Stiglitz's character, who's like basically like, nah, I'm not going to be a Nazi. But he's also German. He defects, right? So there is this degradation of showing there's evil people. But there's also like not everyone in a huge world war conflict is going to be evil depending on what side. There's evil people on both sides, essentially, is what I'm saying.
Sure.
Yeah.
I get it.
I get it, man.
It's about states' rights. Also, I didn't know. So Tarantino is one of those writers that allows very little deviation from his script, right? And you can imagine that about him. Like, that's not the line. All right. But it's very much like the Coen brothers. Like they're a stickler. Like you write it, you say it word for word how I wrote it, motherfucker. But Brad Pitt, apparently, the way he said "buongiorno," was during a table read, and Tarantino did not imagine it that way at all. Like the whole comedic aspect of that scene hinges on the fact that they are not even remotely convincing Italians. And the way it's written originally was what that they were. Because the backstory of Aldo Rain was that he had spent a lot of time in Sicily. And like Tarantino writes these like verbose, extensive backgrounds to all of his characters. Even the tiniest bit player has like a complete life story that the actors know that will never see the light of day. It's just a weird thing that he does. And part of Aldo's backstory was that he spent a bunch of time in Sicily. He did pretty much speak Italian. But Brad Pitt was like, no, he's from Tennessee. He's like, I know from experience you can hardly ever get rid of your Southern accent. And so when it got to that line at the table read, he just went, buongiorno. And Tarantino was like, he brought the house down. Like there was like 30 people there. They all just could not stop laughing. And from then on, I could not see it a different way, which I think is fascinating because that's like one of the most memorable parts of the movie. Like, I walk around my house on the daily and arrivederci. Like I just say that. So I thought that was fascinating. But anyway, let's get into spoilers. So if you've never seen the movie before, definitely go watch it. If you love me at all, you will watch it right now. But I do want to talk about Marta. The first time you watch this, Tarantino actually knows a lot about World War II. A lot of this is historically accurate. There's like where the different and Steve, you're a kind of a history buff, right?
Sure.
I know usually American history, but
there are no U.S. presidents in this, so I'm at a loss.
That's true. There is like a Churchill.
Churchill's in there.
Yeah.
in the wide shot background, creepily.
Yeah, he's just watching it happen. So like where the factions were at this point in history, like all of that stuff's very accurate if you do the research. Like, oh, that is what was happening at that time. So this movie sticks to everything until it doesn't, until it takes a hard veer off of what happened historically. So what was your feeling? Obviously you loved the movie, but like when you saw the ending for the first time, obviously things happened differently than they did in history.
What?
What was your reaction? I mean, because it's kind of fucking wild, right?
Oh, man, I mean, good question. I will say I was, I don't know, like 18 when I saw it at the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
You're like, Hitler's dead?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was also, I saw it in a theater for the first time. Everybody was cheering. Everybody was excited. That was kind of my experience. But even watching it last night again, I mean, I think the ending's perfect and it makes a lot of sense. And I know some people online talk about, oh, well, the ending doesn't make sense. Why does Christoph Waltz's character, think that Aldo isn't going to do what he does? I'm not going to spoil it yet. But to me, it just made perfect sense to his character and how calculated he is. I thought the ending was immaculate, personally.
I agree. I think there's some choices he made. I've never really thought too much about, like the over the top brutal violence. He's known for that, but I also think it was every bit intentional. He does the same thing in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. In fact, this movie opens
Once Upon a Time in Nazi-occupied France.
Yeah. And I picked up, I was like, oh shit, he was like stuck on these revisionist history stories.
Well, that was the original title for this movie.
Oh, really?
And he changed it to just the prologue chapter title.
Yeah. Interesting. Because this movie really is a revenge thriller wrapped up in like a revisionist history film. Like the storyline of Melanie Laurent's character is 100% just a revenge thriller, and it kind of loops back into that. It's kind of bookended by that story. And so the whole ending of the 5th chapter, like Revenge of the Giant Face, I love all of that. But like last night I was watching it, like the anachronistic music, the David Bowie song Cat People.
Love David Bowie. Bring him in.
I knew you were going to dig on that.
Yeah.
And like, I love that scene with gasoline. But it's so out of place in a way. Like, I don't think there's any other anachronistic music in this movie, is there?
Well, I love the use of it because I feel up to that point you can say, okay, this is a movie about World War II. None of this has probably ever happened, but you're supposed to believe like, oh, this could happen, right? This could be a story that actually happened in World War II. And then that chapter starts with the anachronistic music, and it's almost like, okay, from here on out, everything you know about World War II is not going to be the case.
That is,
everything's weird now.
That's true. That's the hard line for when everything kind of dips into like how it should have gone.
Yeah, wish fulfillment. That's
true. Very good pull. Very good pull. Well, let's start with the first chapter, Once Upon a Time in Nazi-occupied France. I have, this is an oft repeated statement, but I think is still bold. Perhaps the greatest opening to any movie ever. I mean, this is a powerful opening scene, right?
Tarantino said it's too.
He said what?
It's his favorite that he's ever written.
I mean, it's crazy good. And like, there's I don't even know the actor's name, the guy who plays La Petite.
Monsieur La Petite.
Yeah. Don't get all French orc on us.
I'm probably mispronouncing it, but Denis Ménochet.
Sure.
Ménochet?
Sure.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Denis Ménochet.
The reason I bring him up is because Brad Pitt was talking about what's interesting about this movie is because Tarantino does such extensive character work for every minor character that the bit players, even the day players, get like more of a chance to shine. And I think that that's so true. It's like, it's so brave. Like, you can take this coolest character with the coolest backstory and this incredible performance, and Tarantino will just be like, fuck it, you're in here for 7 minutes. Instead of like milking that, like it would be obvious. He's like, no, you're going to crush it. I'm going to cast Léa Seydoux without dialogue as one of the, who at the time wasn't who she is today. Right. Like, but still, it's like, I did like the DiCaprio meme every time I see her, because it's like, dang, that's crazy. But yeah, this opening is one of the greatest short films I've ever seen in and of itself. I love it so much. I can't talk. I will gush about it all day. It's so clever. And that's, I think, why I love Tarantino so much is it's part of my own insufferable dude arroganceness where I just love like a good pun and a good setup and payoff so much. And I can't, I'm like, did you get it? You know? And everybody's like, yeah, it's super obvious. It's, in the, you know, but like where he switches to English so that the Jewish folk hiding under the floors can't understand because he's done extensive research. Like that's part of his character is he's so methodical. And so he knows that La Petite speaks English. He knows that they do not. The Dreyfuses do not. And so like he fabricates this I've exhausted my French. Bullshit. Like you're speaking ridiculously fluent French. And so that's all on purpose. He already knows they're under the floor before he even walks in there. It's all just kind of a game to him. And he's obviously got it planned out because when the soldiers walk in, it's ostensibly it's the daughters returning. That's what the Dreyfuses thing. That's why they don't panic, right? Yep. So I don't know. I love it. As many times as I've seen it, I love that he's planned it out this way. And it's fun for him, which makes him more sociopathic than somebody who's just good at his job. Like this is fun for him, which is why it's so menacing. Like the fact that he's so polite is so menacing. And there's all these microaggressions, like when he chugs the milk. You know what I mean? Like it's just like the dumbest thing, but he's make you pour me milk and then I'm going to chug it.
This milk could be our milk.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's very...
No milk will ever be our milk.
It's very similar to the scene in Pulp Fiction where Jules chugs the soda. You know, this is a tasty beverage.
Have you guys ever chugged milk?
Yeah.
No.
Ugh.
It's not the easiest thing to do. I was a big milk drinker as a kid. I was a burly boy.
So when you chug the milk, were you like, mommy, look what I can do? Like, what was the impetus of you chugging milk?
No, I was really thirsty. Like one of my favorite things to eat was peanut butter sandwiches without jelly, which obviously is tough. So you need a lot of milk for that, my friend.
Yeah, I get it.
So you eat a couple of those suckers and then you chug the glass of milk. That's the move. Come on, man. Or I like to just chug a bowl of sugary milk after my cereal.
You monster.
That's different. That's good.
Yeah. I still do that to this day. I switched to almond milk for a few years, but I'm back on the dairy train.
Big milk got to you?
Yeah. I like oat milk in my coffee.
What did you say, Marta, before?
I said I like a good oat milk.
Yeah.
Personally.
See? There you go.
There you go.
See?
It's a good one.
What kind of milk do you enjoy, Steve?
I'm in Big Dairy's pocket, all right?
I've got nipples, Greg. Can you milk me?
Can you milk me?
Yeah.
This first scene, I really, really love it because, I mean, from the jump, I don't think anybody knew who, at least over here on this side of the pond, no one knew who Christoph Waltz was.
They did not.
Before this movie.
No.
But when this scene happens, like from the jump, you're just like, this guy, this is somebody who should be on all the movies, all of them.
He won an Oscar for it, yeah.
Yeah, this is the first Tarantino movie to win an acting award. And then I think did he win again for Django Unchained as well? He did. So it's like if Christoph Waltz is ever like, oh boy, I sure would like to have another Oscar, he just needs to call Quentin and hook him up. That's a bingo. Because he plays him so, he's super intelligent. He seems super polite and charming.
Yeah.
A little bit of a dork. Just enough of a dork.
You can tell he was picked on in school, and that's why he chose this job, right?
He was absolutely picked on school, but like just enough to where like on the surface he seems not threatening, but then he's so good at like turning on this menace that just shows up out of nowhere, and then you're just like, oh my god, this is the scariest motherfucker in the room, and he's incredible, and I love the way. You feel your heart goes out to Monsieur La Petite when he's just kind of like, hey, man, tell me where they are. And you can see he's like crying because he doesn't want to give up his friends, but he also doesn't want to put his family in danger because he's got 3 lovely daughters. And this guy could definitely make his life a living hell. And the way he just kind of looks down at the floor. Oh, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
You're shutting them under the floor, aren't you? It's terrible. One of my favorite parts, again, when I'm talking about those microaggressions, when he chugs the milk, but then later when he pulls out the much bigger pipe,
The Sherlock Holmes pipe.
I just like it's a flex in like the most subtle way.
Do you mind if I smoke my pipe as well?
Yeah.
Just big fucking bong comes out.
Yeah. I've already packed a bowl, so I'm definitely gonna hit it. Yeah, I love it. Marta, do you have any extra thoughts about this particular chapter?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of my favorite scenes in Tarantino's filmography. I was just thinking the other week, actually, surprisingly. Do you guys know Hitchcock's bomb theory?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I do not.
Yeah. So Hitchcock said that there's a difference between shocking an audience briefly and building suspense. And to build suspense, it's the bomb theory. Basically, he made that with his movie Sabotage in 1936. That's the first example where he tells the audience where the bomb is located and when it's going to go off. And the main character does not know this. So you as an audience, as you're watching this, it's building a sense of suspense, right? Because you know something that the character doesn't. And I think in Inglourious Basterds, this scene specifically, and honestly, so many after that, are the perfect modern example of the bomb theory. I think next to Parasite, let's say, I think Inglourious Basterds and Parasite may be the best modern example of that. And it's just, I think it's just such a masterclass in tension, this entire movie, but specifically these, 17 minutes at the start of this, this entire scene. Yeah, I think it's perfect.
Yeah, that's one of the things, I watched this in 2009. I was 20 years old, maybe. I don't know. I'm bad at math. I graduated in 2006. So yeah, I would have been like 19. I had no concept.
I hate you.
I had no concept of what was going on, but early on I latched on to, because I hadn't seen much like early 70s cinema or anything yet, I'd seen like the Dollars trilogy and that's it. But that's what I always relate it back to, is this whole thing that you're talking about, Marta, where this seems like a hyper violent movie, and Steve touched on it as well. But what really happens are these long extended sequences of setting up, and then the violence is over almost immediately as soon as it
Blink of an
starts.
eye, yeah.
It's like a 4 or 5 seconds of brutality, and then like dust will settle, and it's back to the ramping up again. And I was fascinated by that as an early, as a young movie fan. Like, I don't know what's happening to me right now, but this is so much crazier than like an hour and a half of straight balls to the wall violence. You know what I mean? Like, this is so much more affecting, like, because it's just, you're just waiting for it, and you to the point where you're like, just give it to me, and then it happens and you're like, oh, it's better than I could have imagined. And then it's over. And I don't know. I just, it's just plucking.
It's funny you mentioned that, because when I sat down on Friday to watch it, I was hanging out with my girlfriend, and she's like, what movie are you watching tonight for the podcast? I said, Inglourious Basterds, and she hasn't seen it. And she's like, oh, and I kind of give her the plot synopsis of what it's about. She goes, oh, that sounds like a really, really like violent, dumb action movie. I'm like, actually, it's like really not. It's like 99% just people sitting at a table talking, and there's a lot of tension built through that. And she's like, huh, okay, well, I'm going to go hang out with my friends at the karaoke bar. You go ahead and have fun watching that. So she goes out, has fun at the karaoke bar. I start watching Inglourious Basterds. She comes home, and of course she comes home right as they light the theater on fire and everyone's getting mowed down. And I remember her walking into the room and looking at the TV and staring at me, and then goes like, oh, not very violent, huh? Not a lot of action, huh? I'm like, well, you walked in on the wrong time, literally the worst time.
Just turning Goebbels into Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
Oh, huh. Things escalated while you were gone. Yeah, like specifically the scene. We'll get there in a second. But that's a great pull. I didn't know that about Mr. Hitchcock. Chapter 2, Inglourious Basterds. This is when we meet Aldo Rain. And again, I always notice that every time. I always think about this is what they want you to do. Wonder how he got that scar on his neck, right? Like who tried to hang that man? What's going on?
Is it a hanging scar?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought someone was trying to cut it, like try to cut his throat or something.
I thought it was. I think it's a rope, but it could have been.
That makes more sense.
Looks like it.
They say that they know. Like in the interview I watched last night, Brad Pitt was like, "I'll spill the beans," because, like, again, Tarantino wrote an entire backstory that Brad knows for how that happened. He's just not interested in putting it in the movie. So I'm very curious if he's ever opened up about that online that you could find. But I adore, again, I don't know if you remember, you probably don't. Our podcast used to have sound bites from this speech in the opening. I don't even think it was this show. I think it was the one Andy and I did right before we started streaming
Ida
things.
Gaff. It was Sound Good? Was that one?
Sound good.
Yeah.
His character, it's so unlike anything I've ever thought that Brad would do, even though he's done goofy things in the past. Like he plays stoners a lot, you know.
Burn After Reading.
Well, yeah, Burn After Reading, but but also, you know, like True Romance.
Oh, True Romance.
And then we've got Thelma and Louise. Like he played goof schlobs before, but this, like the way that he like juts his jaw and like the physicality of it, is a goofball. But that's another reason I thought that it was a hanging scar, is because it kind of affected his vocal cords.
Okay.
But I guess slitting it would do that as well. You can't talk good after your throat's slit. But one of the things that stood out to me on this watch is how ridiculous Hitler is. 9999, like that whole, when it hard cuts to him
Wearing a cape.
Yeah,
And
but also
behind him.
like, but what's so cool to me about this is it's not over the top in a way that makes you think, how can I phrase this? Like Taika Waititi's version of Hitler.
Yeah.
Hilarious in a different way, where he's trying to completely
Hey, man.
demasculate him. Yeah. But where Tarantino does it in a way where I think to myself, that is probably 100% how he was. You know what I mean? Like just this red-faced, angry, not complete buffoon.
Stupid little man.
But at the same time, like insecure, you know, like everything about this portrayal of this character and all of them, like Goebbels, all of it. It's like, it just seems so true to me. Like he's thought about how this could actually happen and what these people could actually be like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a good SNL impersonation where the impersonation may not be like exactly what that person sounds like, but it speaks to the spirit of how people perceive them.
Yeah.
Kind of like Will Ferrell's George W. Bush, for
sure.
example. Like that's not exactly a one-to-one comparison, but that's a great impersonation because it speaks to how people view that person.
Yeah, true to the image. Mm-hmm. But I think it's effective for what this movie's trying to do. And then we get the whole introduction to
the bastards.
The bastards themselves. So many iconic lines.
What do you guys think? And this is an open question. What do you guys think about the spelling of bastards?
Oh yeah.
I mean, Tarantino gave a simple explanation. He was like, "Well, that's how it sounds." So
it's not wrong. Yeah, if you're ever searching this up, Marta, have you seen the original Inglourious Basterds movie? Was it 1968?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nothing like this.
No, it's not at all. Yeah,
it's actually on the special features of the movie. I just didn't have time last night, and I was just wondering. I imagined it was completely different. That one's a little more action campy, right? Like,
it was kind of like The Dirty Dozen, but Italian.
Mm-hmm. Dirty.
So, yeah.
I was going to do an Italian accent and I fucked it up. Arrivederci.
We're going to kill the Hitler.
Yeah, with the dirty dozen. There we go. Like, just do Mario if all else fails.
It's a me, Aldo Rain.
Which, by the way, maybe you guys know this. I don't even know if this is true. I just saw a video. Did you know he's not saying it's a me, a Mario? He's saying it's Sumi.
It's Sumi Mario.
Which is Japanese for super.
No.
Yeah.
Your whole childhood ruined, Marta. It's not it's a me. It's Sumi. And which just means Super Mario. I know.
Oh,
I found this out 2 days ago.
Yeah. I just found that out.
Yeah, that's over.
Child.
It's over for us. Also, the appearance of the letters, like when he like, it has always like not bothered me, but it's so curious to me. It's not consistent enough to be a stylistic choice. It just seems almost like he does it with Hugo Stiglitz, and he does it
one more time
with one other character I can't even remember.
Yeah.
And other than that, like the German high command, he just goes ding, like this is boring.
There they are.
I don't even know those guys, but I don't know. I just want to throw that out there. It's so fucking bizarre to me that he just was randomly like, for Hugo, I'm doing this, and I'm gonna have Sam Jackson come in and do some backstory.
I wish he did it more, to be honest. I love it. I think
too.
it's so him.
Yeah.
You know, I remember first time I watched this, I was expecting more of that. I remember that distinctly stuck out to me. I'm like, why did this only happen twice?
Yeah. Well, when the first time it happens, you're like, oh fuck yeah, here comes the Tarantino that we're used to, and I can't wait for more of this. And then it just never comes. He was like, I just want to remind you I'm doing this movie, and then never do it again.
Yeah, I think the Bastards specifically kind of lend themselves to that campy, schlocky style that they're pulling off. That's why they don't do it with like, what's his name? The Bruhl's character, like
Frederick Zoller.
Zoller.
Yeah,
the nation's pride. Like they don't do that because
did you go Borat there with Nation's Pride?
Hey, it's the nation's pride.
Very nice.
My pride.
I'm in Italy.
Which one did they go up into the clock there on how many people he killed?
We grew. Now we're grew.
We're doing grew now. My accent is all over the place.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's specifically the Bastards that have that like camp homage. Apparently, the Bastards aren't real, I don't think, but there was an all Jewish British Secret Service group called the X Troop.
Yes,
that's real. So that's a thing. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, was it? I pulled it up. So the quickest synopsis I found of this is from IMDb. So it's probably not 100% accurate, but there was the movie's partially inspired by Operation Green Up, which was a real life mission with Frederick Mayer, a German-born American spy, Hans Winsberg, that's wrong, a Dutch-born agent, and Franz Weber, former Austrian Wehrmacht officer. And they parachuted into Austria, and they basically spied on people. But the closest relationship to this movie and their story is, I think Mayer was the one. It was basically kind of what happens with Landa at the end, where some German officer knows that they're going to have to surrender to the U.S. at the end of the war, so they had already captured him, and he facilitated the surrender between the two sides. That's kind of where they get it from.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is they did a story on the History Channel, I think, called The Real Inglourious Basterds, about these guys. And it was the first time they had reunited over like a Zoom call, basically. And the next day after they finished filming that documentary over the Zoom call, the one guy passed away, like in April of 2016. So yeah, still kicking. They were still kicking when this movie came out, which is incredible.
Yeah, I wonder what that was like watching it.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, that's exactly how it happened. That's what we got scalps too.
And I think it's kind of, I don't know if this is true. I'm thinking as I say it, but I feel like when Brad Pitt walks into this movie, that's the first time in a Tarantino film where you've got like this major hot star doing Tarantino shit. Like, cause he like revitalized John Travolta's career, right? Samuel L. Jackson was not Samuel L. Jackson yet. I guess you had Harvey Keitel was a big deal, but it's not the norm for him to use like a DiCaprio or anything yet. And so when Brad Pitt saunters onto the screen and he's, each and every man under my command owes me 100 Nazi scalps. Like, it's just like a weird, like is Brad Pitt fucking doing this right now? Is this happening? At least that's how I felt. And then we get Django, and it kind of becomes the thing. But other than that, he had his own little like crew of people, like his Uma Thurmans, his Samuel Jacksons, his Harvey Keitels, sneak a Tim Roth in there. I don't know. I just felt like, and maybe it's,
I love a surprise Tim Roth.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you guys know Harvey was actually in this? He's on the phone. Yeah, Harvey Keitel. He's on the phone when Christoph Waltz and
making the deal.
Yeah.
That's Harvey. I did not know that. I didn't
know that either.
I'd make that deal. Would you make that deal, Yukovich? I would make that deal.
I would make that deal,
I don't blame you. I fucking love his character. I'm such a nerd.
Would you make that
it.
deal, Ryan, from The Office?
Yeah. BJ Novak. What do you feel about that? You going to direct your own movie soon? He did. It's called Vengeance. It's really good. So yeah, then we get the whole scene where they rescue Hugo Stieglitz from his very like lax security prison that he's in for how many high command members he killed. You know what I mean? Like there's like 4 dudes
in a
smoking
basement.
Joints, not paying attention.
And then the bastards are just like, yeah, like running across the hallway, shoot him like, yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha.
The double tap after.
Yeah.
Yo, gotta have a double tap.
I love that whole like bomb, 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 bomb. And when they like slowly fill out the wide shot with, it's like a split diopter almost, because like I think Hugo's in focus, but so are the bastards.
Yeah.
Fucking love it. Chef's kiss. And that actor, I can 100% see why he plays a lot of Nazis and he's sad about it. Because A, he's German in America, but also like dude looks mean as fuck, right? Like you're not casting him in a rom-com. I don't think. I'm sure he's a sweet man.
I would cast him as a rom-com. Why not? Let's see what happens. He's a gorgeous man. Have you seen those eyes?
But as Hugo Stieglitz in the rom-com though, can we please?
Say goodbye to your Nazi balls. Should have been in Bros.
He should have been. And then we get Eli Roth as the Bear Jew.
I gotta say, Eli Roth was a choice in casting. I think, like, I can see why you would go with Eli Roth, and I don't think it's the wrong choice. I'm just saying I don't know if I like it. Because Eli Roth is going a little ham, which is fun, but part of me, like, he sticks out like a sore thumb more so than like Brad Pitt does, which is funny to me.
I think he's perfectly cast. It fits the tone. Marta, what do you think? It was supposed to
be Adam Sandler, but he backed out because I think it was like a scheduling conflict. But I personally think Eli Roth did a better job than, I don't know, I wouldn't have been able, I would have laughed the entire time if it was Adam Sandler. Like even more than I laugh with Eli Roth.
No fucking way.
It's funny you say that because I saw a video years ago that supposed that Adam Sandler was the Bear Jew. So that big dramatic scene where you hear the bat knocking in the dark hallway. Yeah. Somebody put this video together where it was that scene, but then you hear like, Yahoo! Hello.
That's why they made that, I guess. Yeah.
Now that's all I want.
The price is wrong, bitch.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
Shampoo is better. Did not
this
know
milk
that.
Could be our milk.
Did not know that. And honestly, the scene with Werner, I think is his name. He's like a captain who refuses to tell them where the other German.
Yeah, his Werner, but like Werner, come here.
Yeah, yeah,
Werner.
Put your little schnitzel licking finger on this map. Andy and I always talked about this scene back then in college. Like it was like that actor is incredible, the German actor.
Yeah.
You know, I love that line when Eli Roth first walks out and he pokes him on the shirt. He's like, "Did you get that medal for killing Jews?" And he said, "Bravery." You know, was his response. And like, as piece of shit as he is brave, right? And like, I don't know. I just think there's so much to that scene. And there's so much comedy too. Like Brad Pitt's always there because you've got these like really.
I love the line where it's like, "We got ourselves a German who wants to die for his country. Oblige him."
My favorite part of that scene, there's two things, but the first is when he says, "Do you know who the Bear Jew is? You know what he does?" And he says, "Yeah, he beats German soldiers with a club." I don't know why I always go with Werner Herzog on that. I would like to see the baby.
He's going to do a pantomime where we are all merely players on a stage. And he comes out with his club, which is actually a baseball bat.
Yeah. And then Aldo says, "Beats their brains out with a big ass baseball bat's what he does." You know, it's always, and the snuff, like the little tick where have either of you ever snuffed before? Like,
No.
Me neither. I don't know. Does anyone even do that anymore?
Maybe. I don't know.
Who snorts tobacco nowadays?
Cool people.
I've done like the snooze where you put like the tobacco pouches in your mouth.
Yes, yes.
But that's different.
Yes, snooze is not as cool as snuff. Can you imagine? It's like this little minty pouch. That's not as cool of a tick.
No.
I've snorted things, just not tobacco. You know? Cocaine, Steve.
Chalk.
Yes, chalk. You know how you get to Carnegie Hall, don't you? Practice. This episode was brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes in life, you know what's good for you, but your brain gets in the way and you just can't quite pull it off. Like when you're trying to fall asleep at night, you know, you got to get up at 7 a.m., you got to work, you want to go to the gym before work, but at 3 a.m., you're just thinking about hippopotamuses, hippopotami. I don't know how to pluralize it. It doesn't matter. You get the idea. So sometimes your brain's getting in its own way. You know what you should do, what's good for you, but you just can't do it. Therapy helps you figure out what's holding you back so you can work for yourself instead of against yourself. You can help find the blocks in your life that are getting in your way. And BetterHelp can get you there. It can match you up with a licensed therapist to help meet your needs. If you don't like your therapist, you can switch free of charge at any time. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/streamingthings today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/streamingthings.
It's October, and along with the scares, we're bringing our own appreciation for the patrons of Streaming Things, the super patrons especially. We want to give them a special shout out for the month of October. Thank you so much to Becky the Farmer, Kaylee Sampson, Stanton Valentino, Sunshine, Huckleberry Cauliflower, Optimus, Mike from New Hampshire, Brett X, Emily Scarano, Little Tickler, Svento7, Jay Scramo, A.K. Ashley Ray, Adam Busby, Wendy O'Laughlin, Jason Hawkins, Butthorn, Conrad, Rabbit Dog in a Barbie Car, Jose Ruben Cruz Rodriguez, Charlie Friday, Alexis Adler, Emmy, Joe Velez, Valerie, John Collins, Amber McVeigh, Amanda King, Trisha Bueller, Sun, Loving, Mortal, Suzanne Rode, Lauren Waller, Jadinklage Morgoon, Jen Robinson, Kalisha Reeves, Aaron Armstrong, Kevin Strother, Jeanette Murphy, Ashley Powers, Stephen the Fifth, Casey McCain, and Enza. Thank you all so much, and back to the show.
And the whole bit, like you said, the what are you going to do with the uniform when you get home? Like love that whole bit.
Yeah, we don't like that Nazis are going to hide their uniforms. We want to always know a Nazi is a Nazi.
That's what I thought. We don't like that. And then we get to chapter 3, German Night in Paris. The surprise return of Shoshana, 4 years after her family was slaughtered.
Au revoir, Shoshana.
And again, Quentin knows what happened in the intervening 4 years, how she got that theater. It's a harrowing story. He loves it. He will never tell. He wants it to be, in your mind, decided. So, Marta, I guess I'm curious, what do you think happened with Shoshana? How did she get that cinema from Madame Mimieux?
I always think about that. I was thinking about that for so long last night after I finished watching it. I wonder if it actually is somehow a distant relative but I don't think so, because at one point she tells her lover, she doesn't refer to her as her aunt. She says Madame Mimieux. So yeah, that to me feels like they're not related at all, right? Because if there was any sort of relation, she would have said my something, my aunt, my friend, my something. So yeah, I don't know, but I don't think they were close, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've never thought, honestly, even though I asked that question, zero thought into it myself.
That's the one clue that I would say, is that they seem distant because of how she refers to her in passing, but it's such a quick throwaway line.
Yeah. Well, there's got to be some truth to what she says, because somebody like Hans Landa is one who knows facts about random shit, right? He does his research. So the fact that she, while very nervous, tells him, my uncle died during Blitzkrieg and then my aunt died from fever. I feel like those people existed. They did own the theater, and they did probably die that way, because that's verifiable. Now, how she came to know them and all that is interesting to me. I have no idea, because you got to think she ran all that way. That's in Paris, right? So I don't know where, some village outside of Paris. So she ran barefooted, covered in blood, hid with some people, was raised up on the streets.
You look like you need a job at the cinema, kid. You ever torn tickets before?
You like movies?
Do you like hucking popcorn?
You're going to need to clean you up
unrelated.
A bit. Yeah.
Kind of unrelated. Did you guys hear that a lot of the attributes from the bride in Kill Bill came from Shoshana? He was writing Shoshana before he started, or maybe he was writing the bride and Shoshana at the same time. But The Bride was supposed to be not as revenge driven. And Shoshana was, there was supposed to be basically one character, and he split them off into two because he thought that Shoshana should have more of a realistic and tragic story, not like a comic booky type thing. So I'm sure he has like an entire crazy backstory with what happened to Shoshana.
Yeah. No, I didn't put that together because he does a lot of revenge thriller stuff, specifically with Kill Bill. But that's watching it last night because I'm so into that genre as a Park Chan-wook fan. And, I was like, this is just a revenge thriller with like a whole bunch of other cool shit in between, But yeah, that's fascinating. There's a lot of similarities between those characters. I have never seen, now the whole fact that she runs the cinema, that cinema is what takes down the high command. It's
a very film nerd thing to do. Like, if only us film nerds were around during World War II, we could have wrapped this whole thing up in a bow.
Well, even Michael Fassbender's character, they need a movie critic who's also a British soldier.
He's super into German cinema.
Yeah, cinema. G.W. Pabst. Which, by the way he talks is how I imagine British people in my head all the time.
Always. And
Give me
Myers as well.
Marta, have you seen any of these films referenced? Like with I know Riefenstahl and Pabst, and I'm very ignorant.
Surprisingly, no. That's something that I was paying attention to last night. Now that I'm watching it with, I guess, more understanding of movies than I had at 18. But no, I have not. What I did find out, though, reading an interview with Tarantino, is that Gobler actually was very, very well versed in film. So there's truth to that.
Yeah. I can imagine Tarantino has seen like these movies,
I would assume.
And that's why he just, I just think that's fascinating. Cause like never, like earlier today, I was like, oh, I haven't watched that John Wick prequel show yet. Mm-hmm. I should probably check that out.
Continental.
Yeah. The reason I say that is what I did not think to do was come home and watch late 20s German cinema. Silent era German film did not occur to me, but I feel like
you've never had a good Friday night, it sounds like.
But I feel like Tarantino shuffles around, gets up at night to chug some milk at midnight in his robe, and suddenly occurs to him to indulge in some silent era German cinema.
Yeah.
I feel like that does occur to him.
Absolutely.
Halfway through. Yeah. Yeah. Halfway through a joint, he's like, I need some Pabst, and I don't mean Blue Ribbon.
But I'll also take that.
Hey.
I need some GW. So then we are also introduced to Frederick Zoller, Daniel Bruhl. And again, like Christoph Waltz, the world was gifted Daniel Bruhl in this moment, or at least everywhere but Germany was gifted it. He probably was known there.
I love Daniel Bruhl in this movie.
I know you do.
I love him. He's so good at... He's playing a Nazi, right? So that's a strike against him.
Major red flag.
If we're being honest, if you're on the dating scene and a Nazi hero comes up to you, you're like, I like you, but that whole Nazi thing, not sure about. But he plays him affable enough, charming enough, and then maybe like you get this little twinge of regret with what he's done in his life, just enough to where you kind of start to feel bad for him. This whole like puppy love that he has for Shoshana, like that's never going to work. But he doesn't know that. Yeah,
she's super mad about something particular.
You kind of feel bad for him, but then like by the end of the movie, you're like, oh no, that's right, he's a fucking Nazi. Get him.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
I'm always fascinated by the amount of sympathy that they're able to generate for that character, and it's always through the eyes of Shoshana, who also seems to kind of have the tiniest bit of sympathy for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because in reality, he's a radicalized child, right? I mean, he's what, 18, maybe 20, and he's a crack shot. So he killed 300 allies, right? But he's just a symbol for them to use, and he does have that like regret during that scene. But also, like, there's that moment where Shoshana, like, when he kind of moans and she like puts her hand on him, like she's like, oh, that sucks. You want to do like this, kiddo?
Because you wonder if like if the world didn't descend into madness, into a world war, and they're like fascism didn't rip the entire world apart in that time period, that maybe these two people, had they just become like met at a cinema and were just lovers of movies, they probably might have been really good friends. Maybe
they
even
could have smoked cigarettes.
Yeah, they would have been cool in cafes, smoking cigarettes and eating pastries, you know. But you know,
Strudel.
all for naught. Strudel, yeah, with creme.
Oh my God, I want that strudel so bad every time I watch that movie. Like that cream is so thick.
Also, how Christoph Waltz just like goes at it.
Yeah, that's
Like
my style.
Yes.
And the way Quentin
loud.
directs the shots of that too, because usually, you know, there's like, you know, typical Quentin Tarantino movie shots, but then when the strudel comes out, you're like in a goddamn commercial, like, look at this beautiful pastry. You know, there was a food stylist on set.
Yeah,
that day.
when he does the insert shots of the cream scoop.
Yeah.
But then they leave some cream in that cup, and that fucking bothers me.
Me too.
I'm like, bro, I'm using all that cream.
Yeah, you gotta.
Got to. Intense scene because you don't know if Hans Landa recognizes her in that restaurant scene.
I think.
Do you think he does? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, because he orders her milk.
Ooh.
I've never, in any of the times I've watched this movie, thought about that.
He orders her milk.
Yeah.
If he recognizes her, what's the justification for him like letting her go?
He's sick.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
But also, he's got that whole plot, like Marta talked about at the beginning of this episode, where some people perhaps don't like the ending or whatever. I think it's plausible that I'd never heard that, because it's 100% part of his character that he would see that the Germans are not going to win the war, and he needs to start making a plan for himself to get out, because he has no love for the ideology. He doesn't care. He's just a sociopath, right?
Yeah.
And so I could see a world where he recognizes her and he's like, this would be fucking perfect if it was at your cinema. I bet you're pissed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Interesting. You're right. It's because he does that line. There's something else I wanted to ask you, where he's fucking with her and he just evilly stares at her. And then he's like, but I forgot.
So he ordered milk.
Yes.
And then after that, he says, "There's something else I wanted to ask you." You're right. And then he stares at her like a maniac.
Like menacingly.
Yeah.
But I forgot.
That to me, that giveaway.
Interesting. That's so interesting. I bet you're right. Because the way I'd always read that scene was just characterization for him being a douchebag. Because there are men that will order for their dates, and that's just a douchebag thing to do. And there's that look that she does. Like Melanie has this face, like a stunned, like, okay, when he orders for her, that I love so much. There's something like so modern about it. Wow, my mind is kind of blown right now. But yeah, that scene, super intense. One of my favorite moments ever in any movie, as from a performance standpoint, is when he walks away finally, and just throughout it, she's been trying to maintain her composure, and she just breaks completely, like, you know, and like covers her mouth and starts to cry, and all of the tension just kind of gets released because she has a moment where she's allowed to show what's really going on inside her.
Yeah.
Destroys me every time.
Because even though I've seen this movie several times,
Yeah.
It's been a minute since I've seen it. It's been a couple years since I've seen it last. But the moment when, you know, because she's sitting across the table from Joseph Goebbels, who's like probably the most evil man in history, you know, just real piece of shit.
And we get a brief snapshot of him plowing
his translator.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like the whole time, and that's tense enough as is. Like, oh no, Goebbels is there. They want to show the premiere at my theater. This is really bad. There's going to be Nazis. And then Landa shows up. I forgot that Hans shows up in the scene. So for me, watching it the other day, when he popped up again, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Even though I know how the movie ends, just in that moment, it's so good. Because even in that moment, I was like, oh, girl, run. Get out of there.
Yeah.
That guy knows your name.
Bon revoir, Shoshana. I don't know what the word actually is, but that's what it sounds like.
Au revoir.
I don't think he's...
I think au revoir.
Does he say au revoir?
Au revoir.
Oh, I thought it was like good voyage or like bon voyage or something.
Maybe.
Maybe it is au revoir. Oh, I don't know.
No, I think you guys are right. I'm not Enza's like cringing. We have a French fluent patron of the show that'll...
Peace out,
Judge me.
Shoshana.
Yeah. Stay up, player. The American version. Yeah, intense scene. I'm still like reeling from the idea that he just knows that it's her and just is fucking with her, because that's 100% something he would do.
I do real quick. So before we go to the next chapter, there is a scene where Goebbels and all of them are taking the tour of the theater, and Goebbels like, oh, I could just steal art from the Louvre and spice this place up like a monster.
Fill it with Greek nudes.
Yeah, but then we get like a better sort of introduction to Marcel, her love interest, or her lover. I don't know the exact nature of their relationship to a point, but they're definitely they're a couple.
Yeah,
and just I want to know, like, that dude is the definition of ride or die. And I just want to give Marcel the shell with shoes on his props, you know, like he I'm here for more Marcel. I want more of him.
Yeah. Cause putting it in the context of knowing the ending, the pact that they make is a suicide one where when they kiss before they go to enact their parts of the plans, it is a goodbye.
Yeah.
I have one question about that. Mm-hmm. But we can talk about it when we get to the chapter.
You can talk about it now.
I was going to say, and it never occurred to me until I was watching it last night, but was she expecting to die? And the reason why I asked that is, if you notice outside, I think that the theater, so they barricade the doors.
Yeah.
But I think there's another door. So it makes me wonder, was she planning to survive that? Like, was she planning on changing the stuff and then going through the other exit? You know?
Yeah, because the door to the projection room is upstairs, kind of off to the left. So if she wanted to leave, she could very easily leave. Whereas the doors that were closed were the actual auditorium theater doors.
Yeah, and Marcel's area behind the screen has its own external exit that he has to go into as well.
They didn't lock the theater boxes though, because the two bastard boys are able to get into Hitler and Goebbels' private box.
There's a lot to talk about at the end, and because it is fascinating to me. I think about it every time, and it's almost to the movie's detriment, but not really, because it's so fun. I hate to say it that way, but like her plan would not have worked by itself completely. And the bastards, like, how do I say this? I kind of hate, and again, I love this movie. I kind of hate that all that she does is kind of for naught, because she tortures them as they die, but they were all going to die anyway because of the bastards, right? So maybe because the doors are locked, so it kind of works in conjunction. But the explosion destroys the entire theater.
Yeah.
That's a good. Yeah.
And so I don't know if that they would have gotten out anyway.
Well, also the bastards would have exploded themselves, because it was also in theory a suicide thing for them as well, because they had the explosives tied to their leg. But if there was no fire, no one would have been trying to escape the theater.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true.
And so they all die anyway without her doing this. And so it I don't know. I never know how to feel about it. It just kind of sucks a little bit, even though it's cool to see like the projection on the smoke of the fire and her laughing maniacally.
I love that.
But I do feel like they expected to die because of what they were about to do was so. Just I keep going back to that goodbye, that tearful goodbye. And she's been doing shit all around town, like when she gangsters that dude into developing the footage. Like she knows she's probably not gonna come back from this, so it's like all bets are off kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's worth it to her, which is still, it's so powerful to me, because she's 24 years old, maybe. Just ready to, and they're all ready to die, because it's so worth it to destroy these people that are so evil.
Yeah.
It's profound to me. But then we get Operation Kino.
Operation Kino, old boy.
With Mike Myers.
Mike fucking Myers, to this day, still blows my mind when he first shows up. It's like, I knew he was in this. I've seen this before. I am still not used to it. I love it.
It kind of takes me out because of the Austin Powers thing.
Yeah, you could throw in a "yeah, baby," and like it wouldn't be out of place.
Well, and like because it's so fucking stereotypical British.
I would do this mission myself, but that's not my bag, baby.
But I think he's great. It's just like he's got one of those faces, you know, where it would take you out a little. It'd be like putting Jim Carrey in a Tarantino movie, which like I would still love to see.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
What do you think about the casting of Mike Myers, Marta?
I don't know. For me, it's so super weird. I don't know why it is, but when the stretches go of me not watching this for a really long time, I always think that he's Hitler. I don't know why. In my mind, he's Hitler, and then I'll watch the movie and then I'll be like, holy shit, Mike Myers isn't Hitler.
Thank goodness.
So, thank goodness. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess I like his performance because he's not Hitler in it.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And Michael Fassbender is another unknown at this time.
Yeah.
That's true.
In the 2009 interview with Brad Pitt, I chuckled because Brad Pitt was talking about it was so good to work with so-and-so and so-and-so. And he's like, Michael Fassbender, by the way, that guy is going to do some great stuff. I'm calling it now. And I was like, he will.
He will, yeah.
And then he'll stop. He'll just do Magneto and then disappear for 5 years. But I'm really excited for The Killer. So maybe it's...
Fassbender's an interesting choice because he isn't he German's his first language, right? He has German and Irish parents. He was born in Germany, raised in Ireland.
Yeah, Fassbender is German.
So like German's his first language, Gaelic is his second, and English is his third.
Is German his first language? Is that what you're saying?
I think so.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, German and Gaelic is like, yeah, I think. I could be wrong, but
Marta?
I'm pretty sure.
He had to put on a shittier German accent for this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like worse than, or not worse, but you know,
with an accent that would be believable for I didn't even fucking know that.
Yeah, because it's so in the script, it's so imperative that his character is caught not being German, so
right.
he has to play up this faux bad German accent, which really isn't his actual German accent.
Yeah.
Because that's how good of an actor he is. He's
and again, he's relatively unknown at this time. I think he went to, didn't he famously study acting? Like, wasn't he roommates with like Tom Hardy and shit or something?
I don't know about that. That'd be.
I'm pretty sure.
Can you imagine the dorm parties at that place?
Oh my God, I have such a crush on Tom Hardy too.
Michael, I say we go have a good time.
Oh, Bane.
Let's do a cake stand.
That's how Tom Hardy.
Reenact the movie Shame.
Kinky. While speaking to GQ in 2015, Hardy spoke about what it was like learning with Michael Fassbender and how far a future Magneto actor went to stay in character. So yeah, they lived together in school. I think they studied in London. The drama center in London. But I swear to God, there's like a third famous person that was with that, like Andrew Garfield, I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive it was Garfield, Fassbender, and Tom Hardy hanging out all the time, which sounds like a dream I once had.
What were you doing in the dream?
None of your business, Steve. So yeah, anyway, that was a long tangent, but yeah, Fassbender is so good in that scene when he switches back, when he's been caught, you know, Drei Gläser, and he does this is the German 3. And you got Diane Kruger and like all of these heavyweights around you. But when he switches, he lights that cigarette and he's like, well, old boy, hope you don't mind if I go out speaking to kings. You know, it's just fucking love
so
it.
Good.
Love it so much. And he's not even British. He speaks German.
Oh, yeah.
Mind blowing.
Who's the Gestapo guy?
Gestapo. The major?
Major Hellstrom? August Deal, I think is the actor's name.
I don't know, but he is a smarmy.
What a perfectly punchable face that guy has.
Like he's the kind of guy who like licks his lips a bunch and they're all slimy looking when they come. Oh, and it's perfect because you just want to, you do want to punch him immediately.
And he does seem like the type of guy like, hey, there's a very mirthful party. Yay, my buddy's gonna be a father. We're celebrating. And he's like, I will be in the corner.
Reading a book.
Nobody bother me.
Eat, pray, love.
Have you heard the secret?
I am on my own journey.
But we've all been to a party where you and your friends are hanging out, you're having fun, and this one fucking guy who's not invited just keeps hanging out with all of you. And you're just like, hey, man, can you go? Like,
yeah, because, I mean, they're so nervous. There's not supposed to be any German soldiers there whatsoever, but they, they're trying to keep up appearances. And he's just overconfident in his own German accent.
This was German Night in Paris, you know?
It was like the Woody Allen movie. But there's so much comedy to it too, because the way that like Aldo has set up this scene before they go in, like because he's so upset that it's a
Never
basement.
have a
Right?
meet in a fucking basement.
You don't got. She's not. And he defends Bridget von Hammersmark, and he's like, "Well, she's not a military commander. She's just a spy." And well, you don't got to be Stonewall Jackson. No, you don't want to fight in a basement. Like, I just fucking love it so much. Yeah.
And then that part when what's his name? Hickox, Fassbender's character.
Yeah.
He goes to Stiglitz and is like, I want to know you're calm. And Stiglitz is like sharpening his knife and just looks up. Do not look calm, do you?
You put it like that.
Point well taken, old boy.
It's such a great setup, and I think Diane Kruger Bridget does such a great job of trying to roll with everything, but it's just everything goes against them. Like she says later on, like it's either I'm either a traitor or it's a tragic coincidence, right? You cannot be both. Again, Werner Herzog came out.
Watch as we take the celebrity into a vet, which is symbolic of the decline of Hollywood, becoming a kennel for the talented masses.
That's how he would do it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The explosion of violence here, I did not expect the first time watching it, because again, I love these characters so much. And I forgot who directed the movie, I guess. And when they die, I'm like, fuck.
I know.
You know, like every fucking buddy dies, except for the character we just met,
Yeah.
Yeah, Diane Kruger.
So it's sad times.
This is another tidbit that I read on IMDb. So again, might not be true, but apparently, and I find this surprising, where Diane Kruger, a lot of her filmography, her biggest roles are Hollywood films, right? And so Quentin Tarantino did not understand that she's German. And so when she came into audition, he was like, "Now, can you do a German accent?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm German." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't know."
All right.
Cool. I just found that kind of surprising that Tarantino wouldn't like automatically, because he's such a film nerd. Yeah.
I find that hard to believe. Yeah, with him having the knowledge that he has of cinema, but it'd be funny.
Because if you had actually told me that Quentin Tarantino had written a role for himself in this movie, I would have assumed you meant Hickox. Like he would be like, "Oh, I love Pabst. Let me tell you about that." Like I would believe he would be the film critic guy. So it's surprising that he would not be aware that Diane Kruger is German.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't write himself as the assistant to Hans Landa, who would be the guy who has to take her shoe off and put on the other one. I just feel like this is something I should do. That feels like something that he would be very good at. But yeah, this scene, the eruption of violence, and then immediately, I don't even know if he's always trying to be funny, but he always is. Brad Pitt as Aldo Rain creeping down the stairs. Me no guns, you. Just like his attempt to like speak to somebody who speaks fluent English. Well, your English is pretty good. I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I love that so
line.
much. The whole interaction is a Mexican standoff, and that was not the deal.
I felt bad for Willie.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably drafted. You know what I mean? Just doing what he's told. Now, again, that's the excuse of many fascists, just doing what I was told. But still, young Maximilian is somewhere.
Yeah,
without
Was
a father.
he early in the movie, or was that the first time we see him?
That's the first time we see him. That's as far as I know.
I thought for a split second last night, and I could be very, very wrong because I never thought of it before, but is he the same guy who asked, what's his name, Frederick, for an autograph?
Oh,
And his wife is pregnant?
like
Remember there's in the cafe.
yeah, when he meets
Zoller.
Shoshana, right? When he's first pestering her.
It's the second interruption, I think.
Like when he pops up, one of the guys that pops up over the booth.
Oh, that I have to go back, but I like that.
I
That's cool.
could be
No, you might be right. I don't recall.
I know Hellstrom's the dude that picks up Shoshana and kind of forcefully pushes her in the car and takes her to the restaurant. And yeah.
yeah. But I mean, when she's smoking by herself and he sees her through the window, knocks, and then he comes in.
Yeah. He's like, "Oh, I love."
Yeah.
Because there's that general that kind of comes in first, and then a young couple comes in and gets his autograph. Yeah.
It's very possible that would be his wife, his pregnant wife or whatever.
I'm pretty sure.
And
But again,
We've seen Maximilian's mom, maybe. I would like the spinoff, young Max growing up to get revenge on the British or something.
They killed my Nazi dad. I will have my Nazi revenge.
Sit our feet into your Nazi balls.
That would only play to a very small demographic.
Yeah. Well, maybe he's like,
Reformed?
He grew up not reformed even because he was just a baby.
That's true.
He's just a baby.
Just a
He doesn't have
baby.
any ideology yet.
I would like to see the baby.
Yeah, we cast Werner 100%.
That's just how I approach all movies. Like, how can we cast Werner Herzog? We have to have him.
There's a special rung in hell for those who waste good scotch. And seeing as how I'm rapping on the door momentarily. What a good line.
That's damn fine Scotch, old boy.
What line, yeah.
And they all know they're about to die. Even like the Gestapo agent. He's like, we know you and I are definitely not walking out of here, right? I don't know. I feel like it does annoy me though, because again, what are you going to do? But like, I feel like in my head, since I love these characters, if Hugo's a little faster, shoots him in the head, he's probably not going to have the neural ability to shoot Fassbender, right?
Right.
And then all you got to do is turn around and,
But then you
and
don't
pop
get
some shots.
Then you don't get the great gag of Stiglitz just shoving his gun in his crotch. Like, me too. Like, I'm also part of this.
Oh, and I'm a real Frederick Zoller at this distance.
Yeah.
But what's funny is Hugo doesn't even try to live. Like they pretty much kill Major Helfert immediately. And Hugo is just
Stabbing the back of his head.
stabbing him unnecessarily in the head, waiting to get killed. Like, this is the last thing. This is what I want to go out doing, you know? But you get the idea that none of these people are in it to live a nice long life afterward. They just have a specific goal in mind.
That's
Yeah.
Operation Kino.
It's Operation Kino. German for movie.
Make a drink for yourself like a good chap. It's in the globe.
It's always in the globe.
Bars in the globe.
Anyway, that's when we get to the veterinarian scene and they decide that you're still getting us in that premiere. They're going to be Italians. We get another one of the best jokes in the movie. You speak third best Italian. You're going to be our escort or
I
whatever.
don't speak Italian.
That's why I said third best. Just shut the fuck up. Why don't you start practicing right now? So good. And that whole bit about how Americans don't speak other languages, like it plays great to European audiences. Americans are under no illusion that we're like that, so it plays well to us. Like
Yeah.
it's good. And again, I do think Tarantino serves as a great gateway to like loving cinema. Like every kid growing up is like, you know, when you're a teenager, it's like, oh, Pulp Fiction. I think that's still the case. You know, you get your Fight Club, your Seven, your Pulp Fiction. Nolan's in there now. But then if you go through Tarantino's filmography, you're going to accidentally introduce some bros to subtitles in other languages. And it's wonderful, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we get Chapter 5, Revenge of the Giant Face, where we get David Bowie resetting the tone. Shit's about to get weird.
Cat people.
And she's putting on her makeup like war paint to burn down the theater. And I love the scene where Hans Landa is not for 1 second convinced about anything that's going on in that theater, right? Because he already knows from finding the napkin that Von Hammersmark's a traitor.
Yeah.
But also, so he knows like, okay, that whatever's about to be said is a lie, but I wonder what their plan is. And when she says she broke her leg mountain climbing,
He loses it.
that's so fucking dumb. Like he cannot believe that. Like the thing is like how I read it is like, that's what you went with? That's what you thought was going to work? You know what I mean? He's just beside himself. And that he does such a good job pretending that, I know he's a brilliant actor, but that looks so real. Like that, like hysterical laughter to tears. Like it's so convincing to me. I'm like, damn, that's really hard to do, I bet.
Yeah, he's a great talent.
I hate fake smiling for photographs. Like that's painful to me. And he's like hysterically laughing so convincingly. What a genius. And then we get the whole arrivederci. And the fact that he speaks fluent Italian is such a shock to Bridget and so painful to her. It's like, fuck.
Gorlami.
It is Christoph Waltz. Like that's French, German, English, Italian.
Yeah.
Am I missing one?
I mean, that's
I think you got them all.
enough. Yeah, I mean, he's fucking incredible. He's a genius. It's incredible. And again, a little more common in Europe, I think, but like a polyglot is so much more amazing to an American than maybe it is to a German, but incredible to me. And so good in all of them. And I want to see more of him. Did you watch that show that he did recently? I think it was on Amazon Prime Video. It's a really weird show. And he was also in Alita Battle Angel, which
You love.
I love. Not many people do, but I love. But it really...
That movie
Huh?
I like that movie as well, actually.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad.
I adore it so much. But you really don't see him, like, he had this like renaissance with Tarantino and everybody was like, holy shit. And then I feel like the last, decade or so is not, we haven't been doing Christoph Waltz justice. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I'm thinking.
More Christoph Waltz, please.
And then, everything wraps up and we get the whole plot twist where they actually do kill Hitler and the whole German high command. We've
Real
talked
quick,
a little bit about the ending already. But
Did Eli Roth direct Nation's Pride?
he did.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a
And
full 6 or 7 minute version of it. I didn't watch. Have you either of you seen it?
Not the long one.
What were you going to say, Marta?
I said Tarantino's in it. In a small cameo, he's a scalped Nazi.
Oh, really?
I think he also has a line, like there's a line of dialogue where someone says something like, "We have to take down that bell tower." That's supposed to be Quentin saying that as well. In the
Yeah.
I think we should take our boots off. We can run more silently.
Actually, or that was the previous scene. Was it? Or are we still on the same scene? Anyways, at the movie premiere, the director of the original Inglourious Basterds also has a cameo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who is he? The Italian guy?
I don't know. I think he's just like in the audience somewhere. He's just there.
Just in the theater.
But I thought
that is really cool.
That'd have been funny if instead they're like, "Here's Himmler, here's Goebbels, here's the original director of Inglourious Basterds."
Yeah.
Like they give him a call out
With the little
and
arrow.
he's like, "I don't want to be associated with the other guys."
No. I don't want to be. It's a list you don't want to be on. So everything seems to kind of unravel for our heroes until the traitor, Hans Landa, reveals himself to be, in his own self-interest, letting the plan go on. But he wanted to kill. He was still mad at Bridget. She's not going to get out of this unscathed. But
That sucked. I felt bad for her.
oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's a brutal scene. Like the violence against women specifically in that way. I think is it's just rougher than, like, if he just shot her or something. I think it would be so much different than the way that he lunges at her.
Yeah,
to strangle her. It's pretty terrifying. And the look on her face when she realizes too, she's like, well, so what now? And doesn't expect that.
She was expecting a stern talking to.
Maybe
at
a
least at
gulag
first.
or something.
Not Christoph Waltz lunging at her like a little gremlin.
Yeah. And how big was his pocket that she couldn't find a whole ass shoe for a few seconds?
Yeah, too.
Well, I guess pretty big because he has that giant bong he keeps in there too.
It's right next to his giant bong.
Maybe it's like a magic pocket, like Little Jack Horner's bag in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, where it's just like bottomless.
I was going to say Mary Poppins. That's better.
Yeah, of all the magic bags in cinema history, you went with the Puss in Boots example.
First off, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is a masterpiece.
Not Mary Poppins, not Hermione's magic bag.
Second off, it makes sense to use the most recent, I think. If you're just going back in your mind. Again, Aldo's a scene stealer for me. There's a particular moment. It's when it's the physicality of Brad Pitt specifically, where Hans Landa says, when they sit down at the table, and he's like, "What is that American expression? The shoe is on the other foot." And I was just thinking that. I'm so fucking good. Anyway, and then BJ Novak out of nowhere.
Just shows up out of nowhere. Yeah,
I'm not even like a huge Office fan. I'm really not. I'm more of a Parks and Rec guy.
Same.
But it's so kind of interesting and cool to see his face, and like, especially in the tone of that scene where it's like, yeah, I'd take that deal. Like, you know what I mean? Like the whole thing, just having him there is perfect.
He's interesting because I don't really quite understand why he's there.
Wait, they call me the little man?
That's a fun joke.
You're much taller than I thought.
You have a regular man's stature. This was the part where I thought was interesting because in the beginning of the movie, he kind of says like he likes Landa. I'm talking about specifically. He says he likes his moniker of the Jew hunter.
Yeah.
But then in this scene, he kind of hates it.
Well, I think he's
Playing to their I don't like having that role because he wants to get that deal.
I don't like being a hunter of people. You know, I want a house in Nantucket. It's all good, but you're gonna definitely like get rich and hang out with Michael Douglas and hunt people for sport. The game reference.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought you meant just Michael Douglas.
No. I don't know what he does. He may. He's a nepo baby. Who knows what they do? But yeah, Marta. Any thoughts on any closing thoughts on how this wraps up, or the movie as a whole, or?
I was going to say that exact same thing. So I'm happy Steve brought it up. I found that super interesting. And last night was the first time that I noticed that after watching it so many times, that he more so associates with being a detective than, what is it? Was his nickname a Jew hunter?
Jew hunter,
yeah.
Yeah, so he more so associates with being a detective. I find that so interesting.
I'm basically Batman.
He's been cosplaying with that Sherlock Holmes pipe, so
that's true. And maybe that's on purpose that they gave him that pipe affectation as like a Sherlock Holmes reference.
Like he's like the sinister, evil Sherlock Holmes. Who's his Watson?
Yeah. I also noticed in the bar scene too, when he's investigating the aftermath and he notices the shoe, meaning there was a woman here and he like looks around.
Someone's missing
from the party. I am here. And then he makes everyone leave immediately. Did you notice that? Like all 10 soldiers that are with him leave before he finds the napkin.
I know.
And I think it's because he likes to be privy to information to see what he wants to do for his next move, right? And so obviously he decides from that info to keep her plot like this is something I can capitalize on. And what you said kind of lends itself to that even more. Like he already knows Shoshana is the owner of the cinema. And he's like, oh, now we got a spy. Like I could probably set some stuff up
And
here.
he's been going after the bastards for a long time. And so he's probably like, oh, this is the work of them. She's probably working with him. Because at one point when he and Aldo Rain meet, he's like almost sort of happy, like, us two battling minds of mutual respect. And Aldo doesn't even know who he is. And he's so kind of deflated, like, I thought we were operating under a mutual respect type thing. He's like, nah.
I guess not.
It's interesting that he kills Diane Kruger. I'm just thinking about it right now. It's interesting that he kills her because at what point does he put the dynamite under Hitler? Does he do it before his interaction with Diane Kruger or does he do it after?
Yeah, I think he does it after because afterwards he tells his men to get Aldo Rain and they tackle him. And
that's when he gets the dynamite is from Aldo Rain.
And then he goes up to the box and he does that thing where it's like, hey guys. And he slides the dynamite under Zoller's seat.
Yeah.
Which is pointless
that
because they're already Swiss cheese before the bomb goes off.
Right.
Again, there's like a certain amount of overkill to the killing of Hitler and the Nazis. Like there's the...
can never have too much overkilling of Hitler.
No, I agree. I think it's intentional, but it's because there's like it's Shoshana, but also specifically like the Bear Jew and his buddy there, Dominic the Coco. Omar, I think his name is.
I also love that joke. He's the one who doesn't speak any Italian, but he's the one that nails the accent so well that even Hans is like, perfecto.
Yeah, he's just like, good job.
Yeah.
That whole scene with him fucking with them is so good. Oh, you're Italians. Great. This will be fun, you know. So much fun, and you wouldn't expect a movie with this content to be fun, but it is fun.
Yeah,
let's just kill Hitler, you know. And Tarantino was so much so that Tarantino was like, "Let's have fun with the Manson murders. How about that, guys?" So we had so much fun with World War II.
Yeah, he basically just did the same movie, but in a different time period.
Kinda. I mean, yeah, there's still like all the cinema references, and I mean he's lived his whole life that
Once
way.
Upon a Time in. And then a subversion of history at the very last act.
Yeah. Big fan.
With Brad Pitt.
Again.
I do have to say, like, that last little bit in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, when they do subvert the Manson murders, is like really funny.
Oh, absolutely.
He's like, what's your name? Nah, I wouldn't. That was something stupider than that.
And everyone gave him so much shit for that. Like, leave Sharon Tate alone. You know, this is not, you know, It's like they had forgotten Inglourious Basterds and what he was able to do. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember that, but the press around him attacking the Charles Manson subject matter was not good. You know what I mean? Everybody thought it was going to be this hyper violent, disrespectful showcasing of what happened to Sharon Tate. And then the Tate family were very supportive when they read the script. They were like, they gave it the green light, you know? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I thought that was neat. What were you saying, Marta? I'm so sorry.
What? Ooh, good question. When?
I don't even know. We were just a second ago. It's like there's a slight delay on your audio, and I talk over people anyway, so I'm famous for that. So.
No, what was I saying? Oh yeah, no. It was just a quick aside, because we were talking about the violence in the movie theater scene. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So Eli Roth and Omar Doom almost died during that.
Oh, like really? The actors, really?
Yeah, I found this out last night. I was reading that the fire that was that burns was supposed to be a lot less strong than it was. And so Omar was sent to the hospital and Eli Roth was like burned. Wow. And the fire department that came said that if they kept burning the set for 15 more seconds, the building would have collapsed.
Holy shit.
Jesus.
Which I think is crazy.
Did they use actual film to light that fire?
I don't know, but I do know that the big swastika that falls, that was held by steel rods that liquefied, and so that swastika was never supposed to fall down.
Oh, like the whole banner thing that falls like that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good symbol, though. The swastika falling.
Yeah, I mean it looks great for the scene, right? But that was never.
I'm sorry, you guys almost died, right? All right. But it looks great. All right. That's crazy. I did not know that.
What a happy accident. We burned down the Nazi party.
That's true. Sorry, I started a fight in the Nazi party.
Do that gump in here.
Did not know that for sure. That's kind of crazy. I wouldn't expect him to have used... I guess it does look obviously practical. Like it definitely looks like real fire.
Yeah.
But one thing I didn't know, the first time I watched this movie was the first time I learned that film used to be so flammable. And that's because I had not seen Cinema Paradiso yet. And because there's other movies that use flammable film as a plot.
Film is still, like 35 millimeter film still is flammable, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
Right, because it's not, they stopped making it nitrate.
I've set film on fire on accident when I was a projectionist. And
well,
it's
I got a giant reel like from a yard sale. It was an old film reel, and it was actually just like it wasn't like a complete film. I don't even know what it was. When I looked at the frames, I couldn't even recognize what it was. But I remember somebody being like, "Don't keep that in your house," which at the time was a log cabin, you know. And this was prior to Inglourious Basterds, so I was like, "Fucking why?" And that's why. Because they thought it might be the crazy kind. Huh.
Yeah, I remember burning like a whole, it was probably like 30 seconds of
because you were a
projectionist.
Thunder.
Yeah, because I was an idiot where there was a projector at the time that was slightly, it needed to be repaired because every time you threaded the projector, the framing was off. Like the way we would get the framing correct. That piece was slightly bent or something. So when you would thread it correctly, quote unquote, if you turn on the projector, you would still see like maybe 3/4 of the way up on the screen, you would see the cut and then you would see like the bottom of it. So it looked weird. And so you'd have to like thread it, maybe run it for a hot second and like watch it like, oh yeah, I got it right. And then you turn it off, right? And I remember one time I threaded it and I was like really, really tired. So I wasn't always thinking. So I just turned the lamp on the projector, but wasn't actually running it. So the film was staying still. It wasn't running through. So that light of the projector is really hot. And so it's caught it on fire, like in the actual projector. I'm like, fuck.
Damn.
But luckily I got it.
Well, that's what I was going to say is like, I wonder if.
We always had scissors nearby so you can just like cut it real quick so it wouldn't.
The birdie part?
Yeah, so it wouldn't fly up the rest of it.
Yeah. That's insane to me. Because that's how fires would start in these old theaters, right? Like, it's like the projector spinning is like friction. You can just start a fire that way.
Friction, and then the light of the actual bulb is incredibly hot as well. So if because the film's moving so fast, the heat doesn't really matter. But if it is slower or still, in the case that I had it, it would definitely light that film on fire very quickly.
That's wild. Running these movie houses used to be dangerous.
Yeah.
And back then, you had to be like chain smoking while you're switching reels, or you weren't going to be cool.
Listen, I don't want anyone to call me a hero for being a projectionist, but I mean, it's I get
you do want to use that word.
That's your word, not mine. I'm kidding.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much for choosing Inglourious Basterds. It was an absolute honor to talk about one of my favorite movies of all time, and so wonderful to have you on, Marta. Sincerely, I know you had a hell of a last couple of weeks, and scheduling's never easy, and it's very early where you're at. So it means a lot to me that you would take the time to be on our show and lend your expertise to us. So fun to have you here. I hope you come back.
I would love to. I had so much fun. Thank you. Anytime you want me back, I will be here.
Well, we'll pick a later time next time.
Sure.
Whenever's good for you, like you're the prime hour for you. Just let me know.
Amazing.
I'm a midnight movie girly. And also,
what was the original time that we asked her? Was it like, because it would be 10 o'clock for us. So for you, it was probably what, 7? Like, you want to talk about Inglourious Basterds at 7 a.m. in the morning?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and she was game too. She's like, oh, it's okay. I was like, absolutely not.
That's dedication.
So
for the content.
Yeah, I get it. Also, though, a lot of guests that we have kind of stick around for the long haul, meaning like they come back for future episodes, but also like sometimes our patrons really like you, and which I'm sure will happen in this case. So if you'd want to like hang out in the Discord ever, I know you're not a big Discorder, but I wasn't either. So Steve can like give you access to that if you want to like ever talk to the listeners and stuff. They're really nice people. So
I like nice people.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're all over the world. So, there'll be some. Yeah. There might be some more in your time zone. Yeah. There's some Canadians for sure. At least one Belgian. I think 2.
There are 2 Belgians. Yeah.
2 Belgians.
Yeah.
That's an inside joke because Enza is one of our oldest supporters for years now.
She's one of our longest supporters.
Yeah, not age-wise. One of the longest time listeners. Enza's going to try to kill me now.
Enza's old as fuck.
That is not what I meant. Anyway, let's wrap this up before I put my foot in my mouth. And Quentin Tarantino. Did someone say feet? And mouths? Thank you so much, everybody. Follow Marta on social media, marta.mcfly. She's awesome. She's on TikTok. She's on Instagram. She writes about film all over the internet. Definitely check out her work and go to streamingthingspod.com to find more episodes of the show. Thank you all for listening. That's all the time we have for right now. My name is Kit.
And I'm Steve.
Marta, your sign off. She's double-handed waved. Bye-bye. I've got to go return some videotapes, Steve.
I love it.
Happy streaming.